Welcome back to the 60s and 70s channel, where today we'll be talking about the voice of a century, Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra is more than a singer. He is a voice, a style, and a symbol of American music in the 20th century. Few artists have shaped popular culture as deeply or as lastingly as Sinatra did. From teenage idol to jazz master, from Hollywood star to cultural icon, his career spanned over 5 decades and transformed how singers approached phrasing, emotion, and storytelling. This is the story of Frank Sinatra, the man who made popular music personal, intimate, and timeless. Francis Albert Sinatra was born on December 12, 1915 in Hoboken, New Jersey. He was the only child of Italian immigrants. His mother Dolly was a very strong-willed activist, while his father Marty was a former boxer and firefighter. Weighing 13.5 pounds, Frank's birth was extremely traumatic because to extract him, the doctors had to use forceps. Then, when he finally emerged, Sinatra was blue, not breathing. Believing the infant was still born, the doctor laid him on the kitchen counter. His survival is entirely credited to his grandmother Rose, an experienced midwife. She noticed that the baby was still warm, picked him up, and held him under a cold water tap. After being shocked by the cold and slapped on the back, the newborn finally gasped, beginning to cry. Growing up in Hoboken, Sinatra absorbed music from radios, records, and live performances. He was particularly inspired by Bing Crosby, whose relaxed vocal style contrasted with the louder singers of the era. Frank never learned to read music, but he studied phrasing obsessively, teaching himself to breathe and shape lines like a horn player. As a teenager, he sang wherever he could, slowly building confidence and ambition. Sinatra's big break came in 1939 when he joined the Harry James Orchestra. His smooth voice quickly attracted attention, but his career truly took off when he joined the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra in 1940. Dorsey's mastery of breath control deeply influenced Sinatra's singing technique, helping him develop the long, flowing lines that became his signature. By the early 1940s, Sinatra was a national sensation. Teenage fans, nicknamed Bobby Soxers, screamed at his performances, creating one of the first examples of pop star hysteria. Songs like I'll Never Smile Again topped the charts, and Sinatra became the most popular vocalist in America. Yet success came with pressure, and by the end of the decade, his career would face a dramatic downturn. In the late 1940s, Sinatra's popularity declined sharply. Changing musical tastes, vocal strain, and personal struggles damaged his reputation. His record contract ended, his film roles disappeared, and critics declared his career finished. Sinatra fell into a very deep depression, facing one of the darkest periods of his life. However, everything changed in 1953 when he won the role of Angelo in the film From Here to Eternity. His performance earned him an Academy Award and revived his acting career overnight. At the same time, he signed with Capitol Records, beginning the most artistically important phase of his musical life. At Capitol Records, Sinatra reinvented himself completely. Working with arranger Nelson Riddle, he created albums that were emotional narratives rather than collections of singles. Records like In the Wee Small Hours, Songs for Swinging Lovers, and Only the Lonely showcased a mature voice filled with longing, confidence, and at the same time, vulnerability. Sinatra sang like no one else. He treated songs as stories, emphasizing lyrics with subtle timing and emotional passion. His voice, slightly darker and rougher than before, carried lived experience. These albums set the standard for concept records and elevated popular singing into an art form. By the late 1950s, Sinatra was not only a musical force but a cultural one. Alongside friends Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford, they formed the Rat Pack. Their Las Vegas performances blended music, comedy, and swagger, defining cool for an entire generation. Sinatra's influence extended beyond entertainment. He was connected to politicians, social movements, and civil rights causes. Though controversial at times, he used his power to challenge segregation and support equality, refusing to perform at venues that practiced discrimination. In 1960, Sinatra found Reprise Records, giving himself full creative control. This move was groundbreaking for artists. At Reprise, he recorded career-defining songs like My Way, Strangers in the Night, and That's Life. These tracks reflected resilience, defiance, and self-awareness, themes that mirrored Sinatra's own journey. My Way in particular became his personal anthem. Though he reportedly disliked the song, it cemented his legacy as a man who lived on his own terms, regardless of criticism or expectations. Sinatra continued performing into his 70s, his voice weathered but expressive. His late career concerts were celebrations of endurance rather than perfection. Although he announced multiple retirements, he always returned, drawn back to the stage and the audience. In his final years, Sinatra became a symbol of a vanished era. His presence reminded listeners of a time when singers commanded rooms with nothing but a microphone and emotion. Sinatra died on May 14th, 1998, but his influence remains immeasurable. He changed how singers interpret lyrics, structure albums, and connect emotionally with listeners. Artists across genres cite him as an inspiration, from jazz vocalists to rock stars. Sinatra was not perfect. He was complex, stubborn, and controversial. But his voice captured the human experience in a way few ever have. Love, loss, confidence, regret, and hope all lived within his songs. Frank Sinatra was not just the chairman of the board, he was the sound of a century, and his music continues to speak long after the final note fades.